Craftsman Days are here at Lowe's with big savings on the tools you need. Save $100 on the Craftsman V20 6-tool power tool combo kit, now at $199. No matter what the project is, Craftsman's high-quality, high-performance products empower you to build on. Stop by your nearest Lowe's store and check out the full line of Craftsman tools today. Valid through 6/18 while supplies last. Selection varies by location.
Nats Chat is brought to you by Walters. Walters is the best sports bar in Navy Yard, located just across the street from Nationals Park. Also a great place to check out if you're headed to Audi Field.
Pre-game party this Saturday night ahead of DC United's next match. Register at waltersdc.com to receive one free old-time lager.
The line of the pitch, hit in the air, right center field. Moving over, Thomas shading his eyes and loses the ball in the sun. It bounces behind him, backed up by Robles, and into second goes Tovar. Breaking ball hit in the air to shallow left center field. That's going to fall in for a base hit. Cole has it on a hop. His throw in will be rolling all the way into the catcher Ruiz up the third base line. As Tovar scores.
0-1 to Tovar. Gray fires. Swinging a ground ball right side. It's grabbed by the ranging Smith at first. He'll turn back and go to the bag for the unassisted put out, and that's a nice job by Josiah Gray. Given the chance to get out of trouble, he does so in the sixth inning here at Coors Field.
And welcome to Nats Chat for Friday, April 7th, 2023, along with MASNsports.com Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman, who was at Coors Field. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. Well, how you view what happened with the Nats on Thursday perhaps says a lot about how you are viewing this national season. On the one hand, the Nats hitting was horrendous again, and they fell to 1-6 with a 1-0 shutout loss at the Colorado Rockies in Game 1 of a 4-game series. On the other hand, Josiah Gray had a terrific bounce-back start, despite pitching at Coors Field, where so many pitchers over these last 3 decades have gotten wrecked. So take from this game what you will. To me, the offense is what it is. I think that what went down with Josiah Gray is what mattered the most. But, you know, Mark, you are breathing that mile-high air. Perhaps that is influencing your thought process. I don't know. But how do you frame what happened on Thursday?
I feel a little lightheaded right now, Al, to be honest. I've covered a good number of games here, and they haven't all been blowouts. But it's the first time I've seen 1-0. And it's certainly the first time I've seen a game here played in 2 hours and 18 minutes. So for all those questions about whether the pitch clock would actually have an effect at Coors Field or not, well, yeah, it does. Look, I think it's great what Josiah Gray did. I think he had success despite some issues with command, especially early on. I like that Davey Martinez gave him a chance to complete what he started and get through a 6th inning. All that's good in the bigger picture. But that said, to not score a run, to not even have a guy in scoring position until the 8th inning, it's getting pretty frustrating. And while you can say, look at the big picture and they'll be fine in the long run if Josiah keeps pitching like that, these things do have an effect on a team's psyche. When you lose games like this, especially when the one run that scored was on a ball lost in the sun, another ball lost in the sun. So I don't know. I'm having a hard time finding a lot of silver linings with this one. And you get one run out of Josiah Gray, you got to win that game somehow, I think.
You'd like to think so. It may not be the silver lining. It is the gray lining, though, to the game. And
oh, there you go.
There you go, yeah. Well, look, I thought Josiah Gray, considering what happened in his first game of this regular season, I didn't know what to expect in this game, right? You're pitching at Coors Field. You're coming off a game in which you gave up 5 runs in 5 innings, 3 homers, including solo homers to the first 2 batters you faced. Who knows where he was at with his psyche? But to see him go out there on Thursday, despite pitching at Coors Field, and do as he did, encouraging, good. And, you need to find these positives to cling to as this team is, off and running to yet another 100-loss season here. But Gray on Thursday, 1 run in 6 innings, 6 strikeouts. I don't think there's a Nats fan on the planet who would not have signed up for that going into this game. He generated 19 swings and misses. He did give up 8 hits, but 6 of the hits were singles, and one of the 2 doubles that he gave up, as Mark referenced, was a Sun Monster double, a routine fly ball that got lost in the sun by right fielder Lane Thomas. Gray issued just 1 walk, did throw 102 pitches, did have some command issues, but he ended up throwing 64 strikes versus 38 balls. And, I thought it was interesting off the cutter, not working at all in that first game. You only saw him throw the cutter 6 times in this game, according to StatCast. He threw a lot of sliders, and the results ended up being good.
Well, and the impressive thing to me, and I think we talked about this the other day, that Coors Field is not the place to try to win with breaking balls. Traditionally, that has not worked because balls don't break as much at 5,000 feet elevation. But especially when he was not throwing his fastball for strikes early on, his first 10 fastballs were all out of the zone, and most of them were way out of the zone. He did what we've seen him do over the last couple of years and said, okay, I'm going to rely on my slider and my curveball. And he had success with it at probably the toughest ballpark in America to do that at. So that's actually a good sign to me that he is able to do that. I still don't know long run if he can be successful without having some command of his fastball. It got better as the game went on. But I mean, there was not a lot of hard contact. It's not like he got lucky and there were some, deep fly balls at the warning track. No, it was nothing like that. He was in control of this game really from the start. The one run, like we said, it's not really his fault. I think it was, 1 walk? So that's great. The 6 strikeouts are good. I like how he finished, and you could tell he was encouraged by it, and he should be. Now the key is, can he run a string of these together? Can he do it again in Anaheim next week when he takes the mound again? We'll see. But yeah, I mean, you go into this game and you're thinking, could this be another 3-homer game? Would not have shocked anyone if that was the case. The fact that he not only just kept the ball in the yard, but he really was in control of this start for the most part throughout and minimized the damage. I think that's an excellent start for him.
The story with Josiah Gray over now 2+ seasons with the Nats is, he will have bad outings, but then he'll have good outings. And the good outings always do enough to keep you interested and to keep you hopeful. I give him credit. When he's bad, he's been quite bad, but he's put forth enough good to where you still want to see more of the movie, and you still are hopeful that the movie is going to turn out with a happy ending. Really liked what went down in the bottom of the first on Thursday. Gray had runners on first and second, just 1 out, then generated back-to-back swinging strikeouts of the Rockies' numbers 4 and 5 batters, C.J. Cron and Ryan McMahon. And when it came to that lone run that Gray did allow on Thursday, bottom of the 5th, he gave up a leadoff double with the word double in quotation marks to the Rockies' number 9 batter, Ezekiel Tovar, on a 1-2 pitch. But this was a double that was not a true double. Should have been an out. Lane Thomas lost a routine fly ball in the sun. The ball dropped for what went down as a double, and then Gray gave up a 1-out full count RBI single by Chris Bryant to left field for a 1-0 Rockies lead. You, during Davey Martinez's postgame session with reporters on Thursday evening, asked him about these balls that are being lost in the sun, and I kind of look at this like the way we have looked at position players pitching. If it happens once, okay, fine, it's going to happen, ha ha ha. It's not funny anymore. This keeps happening with the Nats. But, I also was thinking this. I don't know what you do about it. I don't know how you practice that. I don't know how you get better at that. And what Davey said to you seemed to sort of echo that.
When you're running full speed like that and the ball gets in that sun, it's tough.
Yeah, and I kind of felt stupid asking the question because it's like, what are you supposed to do? You lose a ball in the sun. Nobody's fault. There's a reason that's not scored as an error. And yet this keeps happening to them. And while it did happen to the Braves a couple times on opening day, it did not happen the rest of the week. And you even had, in the finale, you had Robles lose one. And then, like the very next inning, you had the Rays center fielder make the catch without any problem. So it's sort of like, okay, what are they doing that the Nationals are not doing? Now, on this one, this was particularly weird in that Lane Thomas said he knew that it was a problem on balls hit to his right in right field. And he'd even told Victor Robles, hey, if it's to my right, you be ready for it because I may not see it. And that's exactly what happened in this play, except he did see it up until the very last second. He said it was only as the ball's coming down that it got lost in the sun, and you saw how close he was to catching it. I don't know. I'm not going to fault them, but by the same token, if it was this bad, both teams are playing in the same conditions. Why is this only happening to them? Why is it not happening to the other teams? I guess the good news is now that, all the openers are out of the way, it's going to be a lot more night games. And as you move from April into May, the sun moves positions, you get a few more clouds in the sky. So I don't think it's going to be an issue again until September, hopefully. But I mean, this is really weird for this to be happening this often to them and costing them as much as it is.
Maybe there's something new with the Earth's rotation around the sun. I don't know. But it is particularly pronounced this year, these problems with the Sun. By the way, you mentioned how that is scored. I know we've talked about this kind of thing before, but I do think it is ridiculous that a play like that goes down as a double. Like, is it a true error? No, but it's more an error than it is a double. Like, if you're trying to have accurate accounting of what happened in the game, a play like that, a routine fly ball that drops right next to the outfielder who lost the ball in the Sun, if you have to put it under one umbrella, hit or error, it's much more of a hit than an error. I can't believe that we're still accounting for those plays as hits and not errors. That just seems ridiculous to me.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the one earned run by Josiah Gray in this game. He didn't earn that. He did nothing to earn that run. He should have been out of there with nothing at all. So, yeah, I've talked about before, like maybe you create the team error. So it's not like it's Lane Thomas's fault, but it at least goes in the register as not the pitcher's fault as well. This is the way it's been for 100 years. And as we know, baseball is loath to go changing rules that have been in place for 100 years, unless it involves speeding the game up. And this one is not going to help speed the game up. So I think we're stuck with the cheap hit for the ball in the Sun.
I mean, to me, you can make that change tomorrow. And I don't think anyone would have a problem with it. It makes perfect sense. It's not a hit. Stop counting it as a hit. Well, Josiah Gray did a very good job, so props to him. And while we're throwing bouquets at the Nats here, before we get to the negatives, Mason Thompson, man, does he look good. You know, the Nats only used 2 pitchers in this game. Josiah Gray for 6 innings, Mason Thompson for 2 scoreless innings with 3 strikeouts. He threw 25 pitches, 18 strikes versus 7 balls. Mason Thompson has been the Nats' best reliever so far in this regular season. And, you know, I'm not going out on a limb and saying that. 3 games, 7 innings, just 1 run allowed, just 3 hits allowed, no walks allowed, 7 strikeouts. This is great. He's throwing multiple innings, but he's throwing dominant innings for the Nats.
Yeah, I was going to say all 3 of his outings have been multiple innings, a couple of 2 innings and a 3-inning outing. And that's a nice weapon to have. Now it's a matter, if you're Davey Martinez, of figuring out, when do we deploy him? When are the right times? Is it going to be trailing by a run, trying to keep the game close and get a couple innings from him? Is it going to be late, high leverage spots? Do you say, well, he's this good, maybe we just try to get him for 1 big inning late in the game and use him more frequently? I don't know. I think they're still trying to sort that all out. He does have the ability to be stretched out somewhat. And as we're seeing, he's having some success here. His slider in particular was really good. 5 swings and misses out of the 11 sliders that he threw in this game. That's elite stuff there. You know, let's see. We want to see more of it, obviously, and see how his arm holds up. He has dealt with injuries in the past, but that's a very nice development here in the first week of the season. We talked about the bullpen being deep. He's not necessarily one of the guys we talked about, certainly not part of the A bullpen, but he's kind of forcing his way into that. And maybe we're going to reach a point here where he has earned the trust of Davey more than some guys that we did think of as being a part of the A bullpen.
Well, if Kyle Finnegan does continue to struggle to the extent that we do have roles for Nats relievers, I know you've brought up Hunter Harvey as the potential replacement to Finnegan as the Nats closer, and that does make sense, right? Harvey has the great strikeout stuff. But if Thompson continues to roll, could it be that he ends up as the Nats quote-unquote closer or ace reliever if Finnegan continues to struggle?
I think it's intriguing, but I think it's also intriguing the fact that he does go multiple innings and is able to do that. So maybe he is ultimately more of the fireman, you know, throws a lot of heavy sinkers and sliders. You know, maybe he is the guy you bring in with 2 runners on in a tight game in the 7th, get out of that jam and then bring him back for the 8th, something like that. I could see that happening. I do think if there's a change made in the closer spot, and they're not making that change, at least not yet, I think Hunter Harvey is the first option there. But it would be interesting to see if that didn't work out or if Harvey got hurt again, if Thompson could force his way in there. But I do wonder if Davey finds him more valuable as a multi-inning guy and says, okay, well, we're not going to do that. Now, there's an answer to all that. Be Goose Gossage and just pitch 7, 8, and 9. I don't think anybody does that anymore, but that would be, the way to solve both problems there.
No, I mean, nobody even thinks that anymore unless your last name is Espino. By the way, get well soon, Paolo. He's on the minor league injured list. We got that news on Thursday. So, hey, with Paolo injured, Mason Thompson's ability to pitch multiple innings of relief becomes of even more importance. Hey guys, it's Al Galdi for Window Nation. As is always the case, if you need new windows and you want to upgrade the look and feel of your home, contact Window Nation. Tell Window Nation that Al Galdi sent you and get yourself a great deal on outstanding new windows. 866-90Nation or windownation.com. But Wanted to let you know about this. This week is Window Safety Week, and so today is a great day to ensure that your windows are working correctly, and you can call Window Nation for help. Window Safety Week serves as a way to raise awareness of what parents and caregivers should do to help keep their homes and families safer from the risk of accidental falls or injuries through windows. On the Window Safety Task Force social channels, social media posts are tagged with either Window Safety or Window Safety Week. Again, get yourself some great Window Nation windows by calling 866-90-NATION or visiting windownation.com, and make sure that you tell Window Nation that Al Galdi sent you, and have yourself a great Window Safety Week.
Hey, Nats Chat listeners, Tim Shovers here, producer and founder of the podcast. Here to tell you about Game Time. Do you struggle sometimes to find tickets to your favorite events? Buying tickets to your favorites shouldn't be so stressful. That's why you should look into the Game Time app. It's even harder these days with the lack of paper tickets available on the street. If you're looking for tickets to Nats, DC United, or even the Drake concert this summer, Game Time offers the lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, job loss protection, and more. Game Time is the place for last-minute ticket deals. Forget planning months in advance. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. It's the fastest-growing ticketing app in the country for a reason. Get images of your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. Snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code NATSCHAT for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account at gametime.co and redeem code NATSCHAT for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
And now the pitch. Swing and a ground ball. Left side backing up. Trejo has it. He fires across to Crone, and the game is over. Garcia bounces out to third to Alan Trejo on the first pitch. And it's a very quick 1-2-3 ninth inning. And a save for Pierce Johnson as the Rockies take game one of this four-game series and do in fact shut out the Nationals for the first time this year. And the Rockies pitching staff posts its first shutout.
Well, as good as the Nats pitching on Thursday was, that's how bad the Nats hitting on Thursday was. So the Nats got shut out. They totaled a mere 6 hits, all of which were singles. The Nats drew just 2 walks. The Nats, for the entire game, had just 1 at-bat with a runner in scoring position. The Rockies starting pitcher was Kyle Freeland. He actually has been pretty good for the Rockies over the years, especially as Rockies starting pitchers go. But, he's not like some dominant ace. And yet Freeland on Thursday, 6 2/3 scoreless innings, 5 strikeouts. All of the problems that we already have become so familiar with the Nats offense were on display on Thursday. But I tell you, something that is really emerging here is how bad the Nats are on stolen bases. The Nats in this game got thrown out on the base paths again in terms of an attempted stolen base. C.J. Abrams, top of the third, went out single to right, but he then was thrown out on an attempted steal to second base. The Nats now, in the regular season here, 1 for 4 with stolen bases. And of course, it's not just that. We this season have these new, bigger bases. The idea is that stolen bases are going to be up, and yet the Nats are 1 for 4 on stolen bases. What is going on here?
Yeah, they lead the league in fewest bases stolen and most times being thrown out. That's not the combination that you're looking for. Certainly not with the new rules, and certainly not after you said all spring, hey, we're going to be more aggressive, we're going to run, we're going to use this to our advantage. Yeah, not exactly. Now, some of this is a lack of opportunity. When you don't have guys on base, it's hard to then steal bases. But when they are getting on base and trying to do it, they're not executing this well at all. And Davey talked about guys not taking big enough leads. He feels like they've shrunk their leads here over the last week. And I don't know why that would be the case. These guys are worried about getting picked off or something, but they need to be more aggressive there. Use that distance that has been shortened a little bit to your advantage. Get a nice sized lead, and that could be all the difference it takes. They're not getting thrown out by a mile. These are all pretty much bang, bang, close plays. But you got to take whatever advantage you can get, and then also understand when is the right time to go and when is it not. Yes, they're trailing a lot of nights, and so it's maybe harder to convince yourself to go and try to do it that way, because if you do get thrown out, now you're just hurting your team's chances of scoring multiple runs. But it has been obvious and not something you want to see. this team really thinks that it's going to manufacture runs. You better be able to steal bases, and you certainly better not get guys thrown out on the bases. And it's not even our favorite culprit. It's not Victor Robles. It's C.J. Abrams. It's Luis Garcia. It's Lane Thomas. This has been a weird one as well. It's been a weird start to the season, obviously, for this team. I think it probably also falls under the category now of they're pressing. They're trying to make things happen that aren't there, and that's the last thing you want to do.
And I think what you just talked about is what really stands out. We know that this team probably isn't going to be hitting home runs. And so those runs that the Nats score this season figure to be, for the most part, of the manufactured variety. And the manufacturing plant isn't working so well so far with these stolen bases. A, not happening in terms of attempts, and then B, when the attempts do happen, the Nats not being successful. You know what I think another factor here may be? I feel like the science of throwing attempted base stealers out really has improved. You know, it now very much is emphasized to catchers, the process by which you receive a pitch, get up, and fire to second base. We are seeing routinely now throws targeted to the first base side of second base, so second baseman and shortstop can do those swipe tag things where you catch the ball and you tag the guy on the back as he's sliding into second base. So teams, in terms of their defense, I think have gotten a lot smarter and a lot better at defending stolen bases. But of course, again, you do have these new, bigger bases. So like it's supposed to be, hey, it's right there for you to have more stolen bases. So, I mean, that's certainly should be better than 1 for 4.
Right. And it would be one thing if the rest of the league was seeing a lot of runners thrown out. But no, it's an all-time successful stolen base rate so far this year, over 80%. So this has not been an issue for everyone. But I do agree. It's about the tags to me. I see more and more of these. It looks like the runner beats the throw, but he actually gets tagged before he touches the base because the second baseman, the shortstop, is catching it and tagging them on the back, on the helmet, on the rear end, on the feet sometimes. And that's actually more effective than catching the ball at the base and putting the glove down. I think Javi Baez was probably the first to really make a habit out of that, and other teams picked up on it. And it's definitely something that they're taking advantage of, but it does seem like Nationals' opponents are taking advantage of it more than almost anybody else in the league.
Few other observations with the Nats offense on Thursday. So Jeimer Candelario, did he get robbed of a home run? And I ask it that way because it was hard to tell watching the game on television. He went 1 for 4 with a single. He, in the top of the first, had a deep fly out to left field for the second out. The Rockies left fielder, Jurickson Profar, made a nice leaping backhanded catch on the warning track. But it was hard to tell. Could you tell, would that ball have landed for a homer, or would that just have landed for an extra base hit?
And now the pitch swung on, and Candelario hits it in the air to left field deep. It's carrying Profar back to the warning track at the wall. He leaps, and he makes the catch with his glove up near the top of the 8-foot fence.
I don't think it was going to clear the fence. On the replay we saw here from the Rockies broadcast, they had a side angle, and it looked like it would have come up a little bit short. Although you never know, those tips off the glove, maybe it goes over the fence or hits the top of the wall and goes over. It was close. And, you know, that's a frustrating thing because you hit a ball well, and in this ballpark where you think it's going to carry, and it ends up instead being robbed. And Profar had another diving catch later on. He robbed Garcia of at least a single, maybe a double in the second inning. You know, Jurickson Profar was a late signing. It's his first home game here. He won over the crowd with this. When the Nationals were looking for a left fielder, he was available. I don't know specifically why he wasn't necessarily thought of highly on their list, but he wound up in Colorado and, at least for one game, showed the Rockies fans why, he might have been worth it.
Mark mentioned Luis Garcia. He was back to being the Nats starting second baseman on Thursday off having not started each of the previous 2 games due to the Nats facing a lefty starter. Garcia on Thursday, starting second baseman, number 7 batter, 1 for 4 with a single. The single was pretty impressive. Top of the 7th, a 2-out single up the middle on an 0-2 pitch. Lane Thomas, again, was the number 1 batter, did get on base 2 more times, 1 for 3 with a single and a walk. He has been pretty good, but otherwise, there just really isn't much happening with this Nationals offense. Joey Meneses is off to a slow start. He on Thursday, 0 for 4, 2 strikeouts. Keibert Ruiz on Thursday, 0 for 4 with a strikeout. Nobody really is doing much of anything. And, Davey is mixing and matching with the lineups, and, he is starting to move guys around. But, Alex Call was your number 2 batter on Thursday. Candelario has had a few hits, but he's your number 3 batter on the regular here. It's just hard to, in your mind, envision a realistic path by which the offense ends up being substantially better than what we're seeing. Like we've said, there will be stretches in which the Nats hit, but it just kind of feels like this is probably what we're in for the bulk of this season, this team not being very effective offensively.
Yeah, no, it does shake out that way. And I think we talked about it all spring that this was a major concern going into the year. I'm disappointed in Meneses. I thought based on some really good at-bats on Wednesday in D.C., I thought, okay, maybe he's starting to get it. And he really looked lost in this game. He was flailing at some pitches. He was taking pitches that looked like they were, obvious strikes and just letting them go. He hit a little weak grounder back to the mound at one point. Really not good from him for a guy that I understand that you can't necessarily count on him being what he was for 2 months last year. But I think we all acknowledge that he seems to know what he's doing as a hitter and have a plan. We just haven't seen a lot of that. He's not going the other way, the way that, he did when he was at his best. That part's frustrating. Back to Luis Garcia, the single on the 0-2 pitch was good. I like that. But he made outs on the first pitch a couple of times in this game. And I get it. You're aggressive. You want to be that guy. And if that's who you are, you don't try to be something you're not. But if you're going to put the first pitch in play, that's fine. But it's got to be a good pitch to hit. You can't be reaching. It can't just be, well, I'm able to hit this ball, so I'm going to. You've got to go up there and say, okay, if I get pitch X in this zone, I'm going to swing at it and I'm going to put good contact on it. And I wonder if he's not necessarily going up there with that right plan. And instead it's like, oh, well, that looks like a strike. I'll swing at it. And his contact skills are so good that he's putting it in play, but not for solid contact. So that concerns me a little bit. Abrams, was all right. 2 hits. That's good. He's still at the bottom of the lineup. Maybe that'll change at some point, but there's just not a lot going on there. And I agree. I do think we have to, resign ourselves to the fact that this is probably what it's going to be like for a majority of the season. But that also underscores how when you get the pitching performance you got in this game, you got to take advantage of it. We're not asking here for an offensive outburst. We're asking for 1 extra base hit at some point. There were 0 of them in this game. And that's really frustrating.
Yeah. 2 home runs over 7 games. That is frightening. 2 home runs over 7 games. Yeah, it's interesting with Luis Garcia and the first pitch aggressiveness because we're seeing Lane Thomas do a lot of that. He's racking up a lot of his hits on first pitch swings, especially first pitch swings to begin games or to begin, offensive portions of games for the Nats. And that approach for him does seem to be working. With Meneses, right? He was so great over the final 2 months of last season. And his greatness was at a level that made you think, all right, is he this great? Probably not. But he was so good that you say, all right, he must be at least decent as a hitter, it's important to remember, Joey Meneses last season, final 2 months, 240 plate appearances, not, a nothing happened in sample size. OPS plus of 165. He hit like an MVP candidate. So you say, all right, is he a 165 OPS plus guy? No. But can he be like a 110 OPS plus guy? Something like that? You said to yourself, probably. I'd like to think so. And then he does what he did in the World Baseball Classic. You say, all right, we're off and running here. It's only been 7 games. We understand that. But yeah, it's not just the results. His process doesn't seem to be great. He looks like a guy who was a career minor leaguer, and he never really looked that way last year. Not just hitting for power last year, but we talked about it, going the opposite way. He really came off like a professional batter over the final 2 months of last season. He's not looking like that so far.
Yeah, he looks lost at times, and that's the surprise. I agree. They're not really good professional at-bats, which is what we came to expect from him. Now, I'm not going to write him off yet. There's a lot of time. I still feel like there were good signs in that game the other day, and you don't do that if you're not a good hitter. And I kind of feel like 4 games at Coors Field, he's going to figure it out here before long. And I wonder if he's among those who is putting a lot on himself as well. For better or worse, he's kind of the focal point of this lineup. And that may not be fair to him, but it's the fact. It's what it is. And I wonder if he's feeling that pressure a little bit and now trying to do things that he can't do. So maybe it'll happen on Friday for him and for this team. They had the one game where they jumped out to the early lead and it felt like, okay, maybe that'll allow everyone to relax, and it didn't. Maybe it'll happen again on Friday. Score some runs early and allow everyone just to go out and have some fun, but it's not happening so far.
Score some runs early and support the Nats starting pitcher in that game, Mackenzie Gore. One of the nice things about the Nats rotation, the way it's set up here, you get back-to-back games with the 2 starting pitchers who matter the most right now at the major league level, Josiah Gray and then Mackenzie Gore. And Gore looked quite nice in his Nationals regular season debut in that game a few games back. There, that 4-1 win over Atlanta at Nationals Park on Sunday afternoon. 1 run, 5 1/3 innings, 6 strikeouts. Would love to see him pitch well for a second time in as many starts here.
Yeah, and it's a big one for him to show that he can sustain it, and can he have the success in this ballpark as well. We saw from Josiah Gray, the key here, you got to keep the ball down. That's when Mackenzie Gore's at his best as well. We know the slider is good. Maybe it will slide well here, but he's got to have a good, effective fastball at the knees on the corners to set everything else up. But he conducts himself and acts like a frontline starting pitcher. And so I think he will take the ball for this game, feeling a responsibility to kind of be the stopper. I know it wasn't the pitcher's fault, in this game, but they're on a losing streak. They need to get something going well. And he may realize, hey, we're not going to score that many runs, so it's up to me not to give up too many, at least give ourselves a chance. I'll be interested to see how he handles that. But I've been impressed with him, not just the performance, but just the mindset he seems to take with him to the mound. That's what you're looking for in a number 1, number 2 starter.
No doubt. I mean, he was drafted to be an ace, and he does carry himself like an ace, and hopefully he pitches like an ace for the Nationals. Hit us up on Twitter at @Nats_chat. You can email the podcast to natschatpodcast@gmail.com, including if you would like to sponsor the Nats Chat Podcast. We're with you the morning after every Nationals game day. Email Tim Shovers. If you want to join the movement that is the Nats Chat Podcast, the email address again, natschatpodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on Instagram at Nats Chat Podcast. You can get yourself or someone who you know a Nats Chat Podcast t-shirt by going to natschatpodcast.square.site. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat are courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. Thank you to Tim Newmark for the Nats Chat Podcast music. Visit timnewmark.com, and Newmark is spelled Neumark. For Mark Zuckerman, I'm Al Galdi. We thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat Podcast.